A very good morning. Welcome, Karibu Sana to Morning Cafe, this being the 25th of November 2024. My name is Fred Indemuli and I'm today with my friend here.
Samson Jura is my name, of course. It's usually not my day, but I'm standing in for Stanley Nyaringita, who is away, but of course that does not mean the show does not have to continue.
Oh yes, the show definitely goes on. It's only 30 days to Christmas, 36 days to the end of 2024. Mambo inaenda sawa sawa.
Really?
The holiday season is here. Now you can even start putting up your Christmas tree. 30 days.
Yeah.
That's only a month.
Umekata ticket?
Ya kwenda wapi?
Ya kwenda Ingo.
Ingo lazima nyuma, lakini siku hizi kuna gari zingine zinabeba huku chini. All right, it is also the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This being one of the main conversations even locally with the rising cases of femicide. So this will definitely form a lot of the conversations throughout today and this week. We also do have the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, it's something that has been overtaking headlines for the last 6 months or so. And of course, for someone, I'm speaking as someone who knows a victim of gender-based violence, perhaps even femicide. I don't know if it's even appropriate or for me to talk about it, but they say when you see statistics, it's just statistics until it's someone you know at a personal level, then you feel what many other families are feeling outside there in terms of this particular issue that has been plaguing the country for the past 6 months. And of course, the United Nations, as we'll get to see in the dailies, they did release a report that they say in 2023, the cases were prevalent at that particular moment, and in the last 6 months, especially in Kenya, it has been growing. Of course, every day we see these cases, and it's not a good show.
Yes, indeed. It's one of the biggest conversations. We'll be looking at this and a lot more as well. But straight to the headlines this morning, and we start off with Taifa Leo anasema pumzi hafifu ya Raila mwaka 2027. Habari kuu pale kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Why 10 judges face ouster over 3 billion shillings land feud? Of course, this is something to pertaining with land in Juja in Kiambu County.
And we'll go back to take a look at that. On the Standard, money, power, respect inside Catholic empire. Now they've gone deep and taken a look at just how wealthy and powerful the Catholic Church is in Kenya. We'll be back to take a look at the details in that story.
Rigiji, my beef with Ruto on Adani deal. Now because former Deputy President Gachagua is out, of course he has said you're no longer fighting.
Now he's a truthful man who injured.
Ametoa gloves amesema tuende nyama kwa nyama.
All right. Star, senators reject a Ruto bill on Harambee. A different and very interesting conversation here, especially with this debate about donations in churches.
Yeah.
So, yes. So that is as far as main news is concerned. In business,
CBK rules to protect banks against panic withdrawals. You can remember during Chase Bank. A while back, was it in 2019, 2018, there was this particular panic that caused the bank to close.
Collapse,
I believe this is something that CBK oversaw and trying to protect the banks in future.
Yes.
In the event of something like that.
On social media last week, there were a lot of rumors and panic stories about whether or not there's enough cash in our banks, and I think CBK is just responding to that. So that is as far as our local dailies are concerned. Let's go regional now, and this edition of the East African talks about Dar holding out as dues default hits $76 million. This is about the East Africa community. And, you know, member states make their contributions to the community to sustain its activities. So the old problem of budget underfunding is threatening to mar EAC's record, with some of the holdouts being unhappy with its accountability record. So Tanzania is among those that say, ile pesa tulitoa tayari, ni kama mjatumia vizuri. Sasa sahi, they're not keen on releasing more money. So they owe the EAC $76 million, which is a lot of money. And this will actually stall a lot of programs and campaigns by the East African community. And there we have images of Samia Suluhu Hassan, the president of Tanzania, and EAC Secretary General Veronica Nduva during the National Dialogue stakeholder meeting.
They say kusota ni constant.
Kusota. Pale juu on this paper, Besigye was. He had it coming. Observers say the abduction of the veteran opposition politician is a usual pre-election circus beloved of the ruling party strategists. You'll see this story in another paper in Uganda with a totally different angle.
Right.
So yes, we are very connected to this because alichukuliwa hapa kwetu.
And of course, the international eye is now, the international community is now asking, is Kenya truly a safe haven?
Yes. Are we? Even for Kenyans themselves, we have a bit of concern.
We have a number of Kenyans who are also missing, who have been
Yes.
taken the similar way that Besigye was taken according to reports.
Yes. Let's now go to Uganda and start with the Daily Monitor. How Uganda, go on, Joy.
How Uganda has changed over the past 10 years. Could they be talking about
the population census?
Yeah, the population.
They conducted this census earlier this year.
Right, and
they say an analysis of the 2014-2024 National Population and Housing Census reports shows that the country has made progress in many sectors, but access to basic needs such as health, education, and transportation is still poor. So this is a special report on pages 2 and again on page 39. And they continue breaking down the results from the census. It's a Bureau of Statistics that keeps on releasing a bit of this and that. And Daily Monitor is very good at giving statistics on the front page about health, about education, and this is just one of those, how Uganda has changed over the past 10 years. If you are asked, how do you think Kenya has changed over the past 10 years?
There have been a lot of changes, including infrastructure, even the way even CBC is one of the things that we can
Devolution.
see. Devolution. We've had NHIF, SHIF,
Oh,
Taifa Care. We've had a lot of changes for the past 10 years. Yeah.
Other stories there, over 31 billion shillings gold taxes unpaid. Hapa chini kuna mtu anasema Museveni has punished us for 25 years. Well, he's been in power for how long now? Since 1986. That's close to 40 years.
Four decades.
So, but they say for 25 I'm more punished proper. So are they saying that he was good for at least 10, 13 years, then he changed?
And then again, Uganda has also had many presidents compared to Kenya.
So they're celebrating World Prematurity Day, celebrating tiny warriors. This happened last week. Every year on November 17th, the world observes World Prematurity Day to raise awareness on the challenges and risks associated with preterm births. So they're talking about that, but I think the celebrations were marked last week. On the New Vision, now they talk about Besigye. New details of Besigye's plan to topple government. Okay.
And of course, it's been written in bold.
This is a main headline, but you know, it looks more like a statement and not a question.
Right.
Are they saying that he actually had a plan?
So are they trying to give us a backroom to what has been happening that led to his abduction and subsequent imprisonment in a military prison in Uganda?
Yes. You know, sometimes when one of the papers goes with something this sensational and the other paper has no mention of it at all, then you question it. Because this, I think, would be, because he's been arraigned, probably they would say claims. They talk about claims of a plan or a plot. But when they say inside his plan to topple government, it sounds a bit accusatory. Yeah. But that's a big story on the front page of the New Vision in Uganda. Let's move on to Tanzania now.
Mkomaza Rais Samia. Here she was talking about her journey in the political sphere from the time she began until now that she is president. Simulia mambo aliyopitia katika safari yake ya siasa ambayo yamemjenga kutatua changamoto za wananchi. Chuo kikuu cha Muzembe nacho cha mtunuku shahada ya udaktari wa heshima. This is honorary doctorate.
So now we have two doctors
in East Africa.
Dr. William Ruto
and Dr. Samia Suluhu. However, his is academic.
This one is honorary, but it's doctor nonetheless. Wasomi wanazungumzia janga la Kariakoo, wanasema ni somo. Ingawa tukio la kuporomoka kwa jengo la ghorofa Kariakoo limeacha maumivu, wanazuoni wamesema ni somo kwa taifa, hasa kwa kuzingatia taratibu za kitaalamu na kisheria. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 6. Wasomi pia walisema it's not enough just to have an investigation and a report coming from such a tragedy.
Right.
It will only be helpful if that report is actually implemented and recommendations of it thereof. This week again in Tanzania, they're having their civic polls in 2 days' time. So you will see a lot of political and election headlines getting into the week. I think on Wednesday, yes, the 27th of November is when they're having the civic polls. They're lucky they do have their civic polls away from the general election of MPs and the president. So it's a busy week for politicians and parties across Tanzania.
Is this something that Kenya can also copy?
Probably. There have been suggestions that we do that, probably, but they talk more about the Senate, that we should have the Senate elections, probably, yes, the Senate and ward elections separately from the National Assembly and the President's election. Probably if we go that way, inaweza saidia. Vigogo waliamsha kampeni uchaguzi serikali za mitaa. So it's a civic polls on Wednesday this week.
On the Citizen, same headline, but now in English. Samia, here's what built me as a leader. Speaking during the 23rd graduation ceremony at Muzembe University in Morogoro region, she reflected on her political journey, highlighting challenges and milestones that have shaped her as a leader. And there have been conferred that honorary degree, doctorate degree. Now she's Dr. President Samia Suluhu Hassan. And there is also here a medical achievement that Tanzania has had. Tanzania adds liver transplants to medical tourism resume.
That's interesting. Yeah. Liver transplant. Tanzania is set to position itself as a leading destination for medical tourism in the region, with plans to introduce liver transplants by the end of 2025. This will be a game changer, not just for Tanzania, but for this region, because many people have been coming here for medical tourism. Now Tanzania is also part of the market. All right. So yes, as I'd mentioned earlier, today is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This will be part of our conversation. But before we continue that, let's take a look at the weather situation right here in the country. And we start off with Kisumu, the lakeside city of Kisumu. 26 degrees Celsius as we speak. No, sorry. That was different. 20 degrees Celsius. They say today's temperature will be lower than yesterday by 3 degrees Celsius. It promises to be a very rainy day. Cloud cover throughout the day, highs of 23 degrees. So if you're in Kisumu today, do expect a lot of rain. And as far as precipitation is concerned, 8.9 millimeters of rainfall. This is proper rain, and it promises to remain that way for the rest of the week and into next week. So wale watu wa Kisumu, ni mvua kote kote. The other city, that's Eldoret.
Yes, at 14 degrees Celsius right now, and of course, just like Kisumu, we are promised a day of rainfall with highs of 19 and lows of 14, which we are currently at. And of course, just like Kisumu, the weather situation will go like that until, say, Sunday, maybe perhaps next week on Monday and Tuesday. Yes. That is when they will be able to see some changes.
That will be December. So November until the end of November, if you're in Eldoret, 19.8 millimeters of rain in Eldoret. This is extra heavy rainfall.
Yoni weather watu wawili, moja kupika chai, mwingine kuendea mkate.
That's it, Eldoret. Let's take a look at Mombasa. We see if at all there's any better or fairer weather, holiday weather. Oh yes, Mombasa is looking fine. 26 degrees Celsius as we speak. Feels like 29. And it's sunny intervals, a bit of cloud cover in the morning, but once you get to about 2 p.m., proper sunlight. Highs of 31, yes, towards the evening. Highs of 31 degrees Celsius. Very little chance of rain today. In actually 0 millimeters of any kind of precipitation. So yes, come on, after holiday weather, Mombasa is your destination. And finally, let's come back and take a look at the city that's supposed to be the city in the sun. Is there any sun today? 16 degrees Celsius as we speak.
Yeah, hii ndio ile weather tulikuwa tunaandika insha. Niliamka baridi asubuhi nikakoga na maji baridi shadidi. Now this is the weather for kukoga na maji baridi shadidi. Of course, as you can see, they are it's promising there will be rain to up the better. Actually, the whole day.
The whole day.
Yeah, the whole day. Save for at 3 p.m. There will be a little bit of cloud cover. Hiyo ya kusaidia watu waende nyumbani. Then when you reach home, then it starts raining and thunderstorms again until the evening. And of course, the weather promises to be like that for the better part of the week.
All right. So do expect rainy weather in Nairobi throughout this week. Hey, beba mavuli. Na ujue traffic ya mvua inakuanga tofauti sana. Let's take a look at the traffic situation now that you're saying it's raining. Tuone kama there's anything different. And yes, it's building up slowly. You know, this is quite early for it to look like this at the Pangani interchange. And you can see it stretching as far back as the just after the Utalii Drift, once you get to Mathare Mental Hospital, that's where it starts building up because of this bottleneck here at Pangani Interchange. Usually at 6 a.m. it's green.
Yeah.
6:15 you can see it has really changed. Other areas, Jogoo Road building up slowly, Makadara, and yes, there's actually, it's extra busy this morning. You can say we are used to a bit of green at this time of day, but there's a stretch of yellow and red at Makadara heading towards Stephen Jogoo Road roundabout, and more traffic snarl-ups as you get towards the City Stadium roundabout. Mombasa Road, the expressway is looking good, bits and spots of red on Mombasa Road pale chini. Ukipanda juu kwa ghorofa expressway uko sawa. Ukiwa chini, you'll encounter a bit of a delay here and there, but nothing to worry about. Mombasa Road is looking okay. Langata Road 2 towards town is looking good. So is Mbagathi Way and Ngong Road. Probably this will change a bit later, but for now, those roads are looking good. The other major tributary into the city is Wayakiwe, and it's looking good all the way into town, past ABC Place, past Westlands. Nothing to worry about as you get into the CBD. The CBD is also looking good right now. The usual trouble inakuanga hapa around Haile Selassie Avenue as you go towards ile roundabout ya Landis Road hapo. But this is because of holiday travel. A lot of buses za kuenda Western Kenya, North Rift ziko hapa. So there's a bit of traffic. Shule zilifunga last week by Friday, yes. Yeah. So no KCSE, watoto wote wako nyumbani, sasa wanapelekwa ushago kwa shosho. That's why we have traffic there. All right, so that's the traffic situation, and let's now come back and take a look at the local dailies in depth. Right, and we start off with the Star newspaper.
Senators reject President William Ruto's bill on Harambee. We do remember that during the Gen Z protests, the issue of members of parliament, let's just say the political class, going to churches and dishing out hefty sums of money, which many people would say that they are proceeds from corruption. It's something that led to the president during his address after listening to the Gen Zs, saying that there should be a way of preventing such situations. And of course, we see the president has been in the spotlight a week ago where he donated money and it was returned to him.
And you look at this front page and it's very ironical because look, this is Ruto's bill on Harambees that senators have rejected. Down here, it's the president himself saying, I won't stop donating to the church. Now, which is which? And what exactly are we trying to tell Kenyans?
And then again, something still on the donations to church. It goes without saying that Kenya is a secular state, given that we have so many religions in the country being practiced, from Buddhism, India, Islam, and now Christianity. So when you see the leader, the head of state, being, I would say, I know it's not wrong to be a champion for the church, but then again, it makes other people from other religions feel like they've been
saying he should spread his generosity across religions.
He should also donate some money to build up mosques, perhaps even other places of worship of people who are of different religions.
Makes sense. So on one hand, senators are rejecting Ruto's bill on Harambees. Down here, as he's pushing for this bill, he himself is saying, I won't stop donating to the church. Which is which? Pale juu kuna story anasema governors blame COB, this is control of budget, Nyakango, for delayed release of county funds. So counties are still grappling with a cash crunch. Many of them have not been able to pay their workers. Last week we saw this debate, Treasury CS saying, but we've already released the money.
Right.
County governors saying, but we are yet to see the money. Now they're blaming the
Now the blame has shifted to the controllers of budget.
There must be a delay somewhere. Other quick highlights, pale chini, UN report slams country over rising femicide cases. Yes, it is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, so there's a lot of stories like this. 16 days campaign starts. So Africa apparently recorded the highest rates of intimate partner and family-related femicide last year. This was mainly driven by an increase in killings in countries such as Kenya. Now, this is according to a United Nations report. The UN Women said 85,000 women and girls were killed across the globe intentionally in 2023, with the situation in Kenya worsening during the last 6 months of 2023. So this is definitely one of the big discussions we're going to have starting today and for the next 16 or 15 days as we continue marking the 16 days of activism.
And of course, even after the 16 days, we should try to see and come up with modalities to ensure that we totally eradicate, if we cannot totally eradicate, rather reduce such cases. And of course, gender-based violence does not necessarily mean men meeting the violence on the women, but even vice versa. Yes. There's even men who are suffering at the hands of their spouses.
Kuna mama wengine wanatandika watu sana.
Watu wanakongwa huku nje.
The quick highlights. Dozier exposes surge in crime amid high cost of living. I think we've seen this before. And matters health, why cervical cancer is killing more rural women. That's on the Star today.
Now, my beef with Ruto on Adani deal. Now, this is former Deputy President, immediate former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua giving his mind. Remember, during the address to the nation a day before he went to the National Assembly to defend himself on the accusations that led to his impeachment ultimately, he did say there were some things that the government was not telling its people. And one of them is talk about the Adani deal. He just touched on it, but now he has come out to speak about it at length. Remember, he also said that in January he'll be giving Kenyans on the way forward, and I hope he'll be giving us the tea behind the Adani deal.
You know, it's very interesting that he's a truthful man, and it says he'll speak now that he's free to do so. What kind of risk do we anticipate with this kind of revelations from the former deputy president? Well, we do not mind. We actually appreciate that Atakuja and give us the tea behind the scenes. What happens in those cabinet meetings? Bwana Rigiji, continue being truthful to Ambie. We're enjoying this. And defiant president vowing to continue church donations also features there on the front page of the People Daily.
Yes, President William Ruto yesterday maintained he will continue raising funds for religious organizations days after the Catholic Church rejected and vowed to return his cash donations. And that was 5 million Kenya shillings, was it?
So, okay, that kind of defiance from the president. What is he telling the Catholic Church? Hata mkirudisha pesa hiyo ni shauri yenu, mimi nitaendelea.
I do remember he was quoted saying that he is giving to God. Yeah, so...
All right. All right. Interesting. Still connected to that now, the Standard talks about just how wealthy the Catholic Church is. That's why probably they don't need the president's money. Money, power, respect inside Catholic empire. So the Catholic Church has an unrivaled social welfare investment that touches many lives, especially among the marginalized, whether through schools, the healthcare system, or spiritual nourishment. Over the years, the church has invested in people to such an extent that when its leader speaks, everyone listens.
True, and of course we see some of the Catholic Church's investments even in the country, from hospitals, from schools, and many other institutions that are run. You know, Catholic is a very powerful church. You see, they even have their own country.
Yes.
With their
own government.
Yeah.
All right, away from that, still about the church, and you realize that there's a lot of, or maybe because yesterday was Sunday.
Yeah.
So how Ruto's big gamble paid off. They use a picture of him in church yesterday, his trump card, facing turbulence in the political circles and a crowd baying for blood. The president played a hidden card, tilting the scale. They're just taking a look at his political calculations over the past few months. But me, I still have a question. Sometimes do you think that the president overcalculates his politics? Like sometimes he overdoes it. It's like a chess master or a chess player who's showing off that, you know, I have so many moves I can show you.
Yeah, given his stay in power for the last 2 years and a couple of months, is something that we can say that he does.
Politically, he's definitely a master.
Yeah, because even the Gen Z protest is something that he
did something.
Yeah.
He pulled the card and it ended. Other quick highlights: Mudavadi takes Raila's AUC drive to Angola. Remember last week Somalia came out and said, Sisi, pole. We're friends, but Tulkotisha promised Djibouti.
Really?
So one vote down from the East Africa community, no less. That is very telling. Governors are still asking for their money. That's on the business pages. Trump plan that could ruin economy. And Ayabe leaves rivals panting. That is as far as sports is concerned. Tuangalie Nation sasa.
Why 10 judges face ouster over the Kenya shillings 3 billion land feud? Decisions by several judges over the years regarding 433 acres piece of land in Juja, Kiambu County are threatening to grind the Supreme Court's operation to a halt following a petition seeking removal of 4 of its officials. The Kenya Cultural Center Council Chairperson Kungu Muigai and former Gatundu Member of Parliament Ngegi Muigai want 10 senior judges dismissed for alleged misconduct in handling the dispute.
All right, 443-acre piece of land. Well, this is one of those stories. If at all they're found to have misconducted themselves, this will be a rather very huge indictment on the judiciary and judicial officers. Another quick story there, of course, the truthful man speaking there on the front page. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua addressing congregants yesterday somewhere in Murang'a, and he says Ruto is not sincere on Adani. He did not cancel the Adani deals because it was from his heart. No. And yes, I tend to believe him that the president was not really that happy to cancel the Adani deals.
Yeah, true.
But then, do you imagine him not being happy and then saying, okay, fine, I've ordered the cancellation, and then the screams and chants from the MPs celebrating that? How he must have felt. Like, I'm not really happy doing this. Why are you clapping? There's a very interesting story down here. Inside state plot to pull plug on live transmission of election results. So the IEBC will not be compelled to live stream presidential election results as announced by returning officers at the polling stations if a proposed law is passed. It's called the Government-Sponsored Elections Amendment Bill of 2024. It's currently before the Senate. This will change how we even report election results. If at all the IEBC is not required to show it live, then even media might have a problem with the same. And that, I don't know, might be a very big discussion going forward.
But I think they should be able to expound more on this to tell us if this is their way of trying to maintain the excitement that goes around during the transmission of results, because you normally see a certain TV station projecting a certain candidate, another one projecting a certain candidate, bringing excitement to the general public, especially during this. And of course, we know that in Kenya, general elections are things that is something that is not a joke per se, because even the slightest mistake can throw the country into a place we cannot easily come back from.
Yes.
We've seen it happen in many occasions.
But coming from the US elections, you see, it's actually media houses that call the election. CNN projects the winner, and that's it. You go give your acceptance speech because CNN has said, we project you are the winner.
Right.
So in Kenya, we should get to that point so that TV47 actually projects and says, we project that this is the president, and you go ahead and give your acceptance speech. Climate talks, COP29 came to an end in Davos. Is it Davos? Huko kwa Eastern Europe. Climate talks end in disarray as poor nations reject meager 39 trillion deal. Yes. Hiyo pesa wamesema ni kidogo sana. Alafu pale kuna pumzi hafifu ya Raila 2027. Wachanganuzi wanasema Raila pekee bila kura za Mlima Kenya au Ukambani hawataweza kumpa Ruto ushindi.
Right, that's why the president is now seeking alliances from other. If you can see this picture, there are only 2 people missing, and then we have the Pentagon of 2007. Yes. That is Marehemu Nyaga and Najib Balala.
Najib Balala.
Yeah.
Yes.
So wakirejelea uchaguzi wa mwaka 2007 samahani, ambao Raila, Ruto na Mudavadi walishirikiana bila Kalonzo na Mlima Kenya, wadadisi wanasema Ruto atalazimika kutanua mbawa zaidi kisiasa ili haifadhi urais wake mwaka 2027.
But the argument has always been that in 2007 he may have won. Kabla zile za tarakanithi kufika. But something tilted the scales somewhere. The truth, I don't know if we'll ever get to know, but because even the ECK chairperson then said he may not be sure
who won the
election. So,
and the people who can tell us the truth and the hard truth are no longer with us now.
Mpango wa ODM kubaki hai Pwani pale juu. Na chakula Man City. Liverpool wakipaa walitandikwa mabao 4 na Tottenham.
The season 2024-2025 of the English Premier League is becoming quite interesting. I don't know. I don't think if Man City will be able to defend their title this time around.
Well,
it might be like 2020 when Liverpool took it from them.
Liverpool have actually opened a very serious lead on the rest of the players and teams, and probably they stand a better chance going into Christmas season with probably a 5.6-point lead.
But the goodness is we don't have any other international break until March. Maybe we'll see what happens from then.
Yes. For more details on sports, do stand by at 8 a.m. this morning. We'll be having Monday Blitz. We'll be telling you more about that. So let's take a look at the cartoons. And the cartoons have one thing in common. We only have 2 cartoons today. The Standard does not have a cartoon. I think in that space they have a photo of something interesting. But the cartoon on the Daily Nation talks about Adani. Lakini huyu jamaa ambaye ni government amevaa t-shirt ya yellow ile chama, lakini ni shisha. Unajua siku hizo watu wanasema shisha. Alafu sura ya Adani kwa hapo. So yes, they dumped the deal on JKIA, they dumped the deal on Ketraco according to the president, but kuna mambo ya shisha. Apparently Adani was involved in this shift deal. So as he's sweeping this, bado kuna mambo, the discussion about Adani's involvement in matters SHIF and the Social Health Authority. Same guy in the cartoon on the People Daily.
The Adani CEO stuck in a maze, and of course, is that a rope he's trying to hang himself with, or trying to untangle himself from something?
Yes,
given,
probably untangling himself.
Yeah, coming from the indictment by the United States of America on his corruption, on a corruption allegations,
yes,
and some of the things that his company is doing to get ahead in business.
All right. So these are some of the discussions we'll be having today. Kipruto Rapkirwa will be in studio. Samuel Pogisio will also be in studio. We should have had the picture of Philip Kisia here. He will also be in studio, and Senator Danson Mungatana for this conversation this morning. Do stand by for that after the break. As I told you earlier, Monday Blitz will be coming your way at 8 a.m. Fred Arocho and Shatterboy will be driving that discussion alongside sports journalist Florence Ndongo for all your latest scores and updates on how the EPL is faring, how Kenyan sports is also faring. Do stand by for that. We'll also be having a different conversation.
Yeah, later on I'll be speaking to Anthony Mwangi, an insurance expert. We'll be talking about the importance of insurance, especially, I don't know, Fred, have you heard of the term zillennial? Zillennial.
No.
Now, zillennial is a portmanteau between Gen Z and millennial. And these are people who are aged, who were born from 1992 to 1997. Now, these are people who are now starting to have families, own property. So this is a discussion that will be important for them, because, you know, in these things, there are things that we need to ensure. So at that particular, in that particular discussion, Anthony Mwangi will be helping us, the zillennials, to better understand.
That's a new one.
Yeah, better understand what we need to know about insurance, given that now we are the future that we were being told back then.
So do stand by for all these conversations and a lot more from now till 10 a.m. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I met the stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
All right, welcome back and good morning once again. You're watching Morning Cafe. Time for us to take a look at the dailies this morning. Today being 25th of November, it is an International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. This is a UN declaration, International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. It was also the beginning of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. This is highlighted in one of the dailies. UN report slums country over rising femicide cases. So even as we look at politics and other big headline, I think it's only right that we look at this. The story is on page 2 of the Stand. It says, Africa recorded the highest rates of intimate, partner and family-related femicide last year, driven by an increase in killings in countries such as Kenya. This is according to a UN report. The report by UN Women said globally 85,000 women and girls were killed intentionally in 2023. Globally, 140 women and girls die every day at the hands of their partners or close relatives, which means one woman or girl is killed every 10 minutes. Now, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights said killing of women by intimate partners has worsened. And according to the National Police Service, there have been 97 femicide cases reported in the last 3 months in Kenya alone. That means about more than one each day. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. Samuel Pogisio, who served as a cabinet minister for ICT in the Kibaki II administration and also as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament. Karibu sana, Bwana Pogisio.
Thank you.
Kipruto Kirwa, cabinet minister for agriculture in the Kibaki I administration, also served as a member of the National Assembly. Karibu sana.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We also have Philip Kisia, leadership and governance expert, who also served at one time as town clerk of this great city of Nairobi. Karibuni sana.
Good morning.
Let's start from there, Bwana Pogisio. 97 cases of femicide in Kenya in the last 3 months. It is one of those discussions that many women have been talking about, but today we're privileged to have male voices on this panel, probably to address this issue. Let's start from there.
Thank you, Fred. The very prominent celebration that we have today is that we are celebrating and talking freely about this femicide and abuse of women, killing of women, and even generally violence against women. It's a very big issue, and we don't take time ourselves as a nation to reflect on why it's happening and why it's on the increase. Is it because there are issues, underlying issues? Is it that generally certain category of men is getting more violent? Or is it that there are circumstances in the country, in the nation, or in the economy, or is it we have rising cases of mental health? Mm-hmm. So all those things need to be looked at, and the government needs to come out, and society needs to come out, protect women. Because generally, I think the trend has been that women, especially the African women, have been considered the weaker gender, physically, and easily overpowered by men. And yet that's really not necessary, because in the traditional African society, women were protected. Even if in tribal wars, women were normally not attacked, not spared. But in this world today, it's on the increase, and it's no age category. I think it's happening at almost in every age group. So I really wish to sound the civil society out, who are responsible, who are actually raising funds to develop power within the women, for self-defense, things like that. And also just to train them, to empower them, to be able to notice some of these things which are happening. Because I think they're just being, some of them are being attacked, killed, and being lured. And they have not been able to detect where they're being lured to. So a bit of empowering and capacity building in women is needed, even in training from schools now, high school up to university. We should start giving the ladies, women, capacity to suggest to them that they can actually begin to detect some of these things early, and be able to say no to some of these things that they're being invited to, some of them being lured to their death. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a very serious matter, but can the African boy, child, can the African man please rise to the tradition that we have, that we protect our women, and we don't actually damage them or destroy them or kill them.
Okay. Wanakirwa, the statistics are horrendous. They're a bit scary. 97 cases of femicide in the last 3 months in Kenya alone. And this also caught the attention of the president in his State of the Nation address. He even committed 100 million shillings towards a safe home, safe space campaign, seeking to end femicide cases across the country. It's something that calls for national conversation, don't you think?
Yeah, Fred, thank you so much for the opportunity. At the risk of almost repeating what my colleague has just said, we are a society in transition. Society in transition in the sense that our old system, as is stated, even during the times of war, women were seen to be the weaker. Women and children and elderly men were spared from many atrocities of war. And this therefore meant that our society had its own safeguards in ensuring that we do not necessarily do a devastating blow to the weaker individuals in its midst. And later on, of course, there was the issue of the kind of punishment that we used to meet to our wives and spouses. But society, while it is moving away from that, there is also the challenge of certain desperation in terms of income, such that some of the quarrels that emanate from various homes has something to do with the scarcity that we are faced with. And not only that, but also the issue of mental illness. Mental illness has occupied a large space in the sense that our statistics are changing. We used to talk of for every 4 people, 1 person is highly likely to have some kind of mental illness. But the figure is going up. Perhaps some of the individuals dealing with mental illness, they are talking of for every 3 people, 1 of them is likely to have some kind of mental challenge in terms of mental illness. These are some of the factors that perhaps conspire to cause the kind of challenge that we are faced as a society. The other issue is, of course, the fact that as a people, we seem to want to solve our problems in a way that is not in keeping with the rules of the game, with the normal societal resolution of disputes, but we just go physical without necessarily facing the reality. Of course, we do appreciate if the president said, and I hope this time is not a lie, that he's going to spend 100 million in terms of mitigating some of the cases. It would be interesting to see how does it go. How does it go to the foundations of our society? Because it is important that as children grow up, they know that there are many ways of resolving disputes. It's not just the question of meeting violence on somebody that you disagree. And if that is inculcated in the entire society, then we are likely to get more and more healthy as we go along. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it is something that is worrying. Okay. Almost, as you said, almost every day somebody is killed for the last 3 months or so. So it is something that we should not only condemn, but encourage the society to look for ways of resolving disputes other than meeting physical violence.
Yes. Now, there's always a challenge, Bwanakisia, when you talk about mental health, and that is what many people, and even the first 2 speakers who said, the first 2 panelists talked about the issue of mental health. But this story on the front page of the Star is right next to another highlight about Adosia exposing a surge in crime because of high cost of living. And there seems to be a link also with the economic situation of the country, that could in a way contribute to levels of crime, also to the high number of cases of mental health, don't you think?
Well, thank you, Fred, for having me, and thank you, colleagues. I don't want to repeat what my colleagues have said. I fully concur with the opinion. But let me say that we live in a modern society. And the society has come up with different forms of challenges. But that should not be an excuse for turning violent, because mental health is about a state of well-being, okay? So challenges come in different forms. I know there's so much pressure right now, particularly in Kenya and in Africa. And, but that should not form an excuse to meet violence against any human being, and particularly women. Because it's, in my view, it is archaic, it is primitive, and there is no excuse whatsoever for another human being turning violent, and more so against women. Therefore, I mean, we have responsibility as men, as heads of home, to ensure that we raise our children in a manner that prepares them for those challenges in future. So, and there are very, very basic things that one can do to ensure that you really don't suffer adversely from mental health challenges. Things like just exercise. Things like having sufficient sleep. When you talk about, I mean, my colleagues that talk about, pressure, life pressure, but, there is a way of diffusing the pressure that comes with the challenges that one faces in life. So we, as men, have said we have a responsibility, but most important is government in action. Yes, the president the other day made a pledge of giving 100 million. We say thank you, but we are over 55 million Kenyans. Is that the best that he could do? That's a question that we must be asking ourselves. Is that the best that we can do with a country that can blow up 1 billion shillings renovating State House? I mean, is that not money that could have been put in better use, like ensuring that issues to do with mental health are dealt with? So I think we're getting our priorities right. But as we move forward, I think there's really need that the government invests sufficient resources in matters to do with health, and more so mental health.
All right. And yes, even as we begin the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, one of our reporters filed a report on these cases of femicide and the fact that it is a growing concern. Let's watch that story.
The alarming rise in femicide cases in the country has drawn sharp condemnation from church leaders, government officials and activists. A recent case involves a pastor at the Jesus Compassion Ministry in Kiambu's Ruiru area who allegedly stabbed his wife on Thursday. The pastor is still at large while the wife is receiving treatment at a hospital in Nakuru. Pastor Elias Njau is accused of attacking his wife Florence Wanjiku with a machete. The attack left Wanjiku with severe injuries to her hands and fingers while police intensify their search for the fugitive pastor.
Nilisikia ananikatakata, so I tried to protect myself with my hands, and I lost my fingers, all of them in this hand. The remaining one are fractured.
These voices are urging families to address deep-seated societal issues while pressing the government to take decisive action against the troubling trend.
Knowing without the peace at home, the good of the family, then the nation, the church, and everywhere else where we shall be, there shall be no peace.
Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru has weighed in on the matter, calling for the formation of a special police unit within the DCI to deal with these rising cases of femicide in the country.
Because what happens is that when there is a situation like this, even when someone knows the actual, they are also scared for their own lives, and maybe they will not be able to divulge the information or be confident enough to be a witness and still walk free. So we need a special unit that looks into these matters as well.
Pastor Dorcas Rigathi, spouse of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, also spoke passionately on the issue during a service at St. James ACK Church in Kiambu, urging parents to re-establish strong family values, citing a lack of emotional support and parental presence as factors contributing to the violence.
The issue is mental illness because of the stress and the circumstances that are around in this country. people, some people have no jobs, and with all those stresses and mental illnesses, which we have not been taking care of, many people, they kill their parents, others because of economic issues, they kill even their children just to be free, and they kill themselves. So I think that is one of the things is lack of the family values. The other one is mental health, and which is we need to address.
This case is part of a larger wave of femicide sweeping the country. Data from the National Police Service indicates that at least 97 women have been killed in the past 3 months alone.
Yes, International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And today we begin the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Allow me to welcome Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River into studio. Karibu sana, Bwana Mungatana. We were just talking about this special day, International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. The Star has a story giving statistics of how bad the situation is. 85,000 women and girls killed intentionally in 2023. 97 femicide cases in the last 3 months in Kenya alone. Briefly comment on that as we take a break.
Let me just say that we had last week just finished a session of the Pan-African Parliament, and I've said here before, I'm the head of delegation for Kenya, representing the Kenya delegation there, the Parliament of Africa. And that issue is not just a Kenyan issue. It's an African issue, because we debated, statistics were being given from Gambia, Namibia, Nigeria, Congo. So from the north all the way to the south, there was a feeling amongst our colleague female members of parliament that we need to have an attention on this matter. And in fact, there was a motion, we debated it, and the general condemnation against violence against women was carried. So my point is that we need to ask ourselves why this has gone to this. Maybe there are some cultural issues that we need to address. Maybe it's economic issues. But if we unite as Africa, as East Africa, as Kenya, to address this issue, then maybe going forward, the problem may diminish. So my own appeal is that we are all fathers, and some of us have girls in our house. We have sisters. Let us treat this matter with the seriousness it deserves.
All right. International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women today, 25th of November. It also kickstarts the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which will continue until the 10th of December. So big discussions around this issue will continue throughout this week and next week as well. And we at TV47 will definitely be driving that conversation as well. Time for us to take a break so that when we come back, we take a look at the politics of the day. The truthful man has been saying a lot of truths. What does it mean going forward? You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya ndio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insight.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. We now want to talk about what's happening locally. Gachagua says Ruto not sincere on Adani. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now wants US President-elect Donald Trump to impose sanctions on all Kenyan leaders who committed the country into the shady Adani deals, saying President William Ruto cancelled the controversial contracts under duress. Now, the truthful man speaking quite a lot of truths. Yesterday, he was at a church service in Murang'a, where he made revelations about what was happening while he was still a deputy president. Let's watch this story.
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has hinted reasons why his former boss, President William Ruto, wanted him out of office 2 years after they were elected in the 2022 general election. Speaking during a church service in Murang'a on Sunday, Gachagua said his bitter fallout with President William Ruto was, among other things, the Adani JKIA deal, which according to him was punitive to Kenyans.
Hii maneno ya Adani na zile zingine ndio ilifanya mimi na rais tukakuwa hatuelewani. Because pale katika cabinet ilikuwa ni mimi peke yangu naweza mwambia rais ukweli. Wengine wote ni waoga. Akikodoa macho namna hii wote wanaenda chini.
According to Gachagua, a large number of cabinet officials fear correcting the president, therefore permitting him to enact laws that harm Kenyans.
Mimi nilikuwa kwa cabinet peke yangu ndio nimepinga. Nikasema nikisikiza raia hawataki hii maneno mheshimiwa rais. Tafadhali tusiwasukume wa Kenya, watatuletea balaa. Rais akasema bana, you don't have to do what is popular, you do what is right. Nikamwambia, that's okay, Mr. President, but if the majority of Kenyans who elected us and we are democracy are saying it is not right, how can we insist it is right?
In support of his claims, he cited MP's responses to Ruto's cancellation of Adani's agreement with Kenya, claiming that even those who had previously backed it changed their mind to back Ruto.
Juzi mambo ya Adani, wanapiga debe, Adani ni mtu mzuri, nini. Rais kusema hii Adani ni mkora vile wazungu wamesema. Wakanaamuka wanaita rais ati Igwe. Simuliona? Igwe! Muliwaona?
Since his ouster, the former DP has been vocal in his criticism of the government, accusing it of intimidation and harassment. He recently accused the government of harassment and intimidation, claiming that security agents in unmarked cars have been following him and were spotted around his Nairobi and Nyeri homes.
Hata sahi president amesema ni mbaya, hakukuwa na haja ya kumpigia makofi kwa sababu haikutoka kwa roho yake. Hiyo ilikuwa ni maneno ya Amerika. He only responded after that suspect was indicted in the United States. It did not come from his heart, so there was no need to clap for him.
Gachagua disclosed that talks with religious leaders and political allies who share similar views are still ongoing, and that a formal announcement is anticipated in January. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yeah, those are just some of the scenes played out in Murang'a town yesterday as former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua toured Murang'a. But we now want to focus on the issues around Adani and what it meant to this administration. It would appear that there's more than meets the eye. And when the President made his State of the Nation address last week and he cancelled the Adani deals, Ketraco and the JKIA deal, he must have hoped that this would be the end of this debate around the Adani. But now it seems that this conversation is not about to end. Looking at the cartoons today, and we have two from the Daily Nation and one from the People Daily, they're talking about the same thing, the maze that is Adani deals. The cartoon on the Daily Nation draws the link between Adani and the Social Health Authority and the Social Health Insurance Fund as well. Clearly, we've not seen the end of this conversation about Adani.
Fred, I think we need to understand that Adani is not, it's a mystery. It's not just one person. It's not the person whose name is on the brand. Adani is already transferred to Kenya. It's already become a Kenyan. And so whether we remove Adani from any business, you remember it's already doing business in Kenya. The SHA, which we are already rolling out, by the way, is behind all that, and that has not been cancelled. What has been cancelled is JKIA and energy, right? And Ketraco. And so Adani can be out, but his work continues. I mean, there are people here who already have, struck deals with Adani. So I don't know whether we are succeeding in getting him out of Kenya, because if you look at the way our ministers were defending this deal, you would think they have direct interest themselves. I mean, people would bet their blood, their integrity, and saying that this guy is not corrupt, he has not done anything anywhere. And they're very violent about it. I mean, they're not only categorical, but almost very violent about it. Meaning that, they didn't think of any options at all. And that's why our problem is. Our problem is these people had only one way of doing things, through Adani. So when you cancel it and you've never thought of another alternative, that whole program is now in danger, because if you have to bring it back on the normal procurement, back to normal procurement, looking for a new person to deal with this is going to take quite a while. And that's at the end of it. And I heard
before this cancellation, because the president had said, this guy has invested a lot of money. Now, what you have to tell us is, what is the cost of cancellation? What's going to be the cost of this cancellation? If it's going to cost almost the same amount of money as has been spent, then we have a big problem again. We're back into debts, we're back into these miscalculations and so on. Why couldn't somebody think through the options and say, if in case Adani thing doesn't get approval from the people, we have this other option? And of course, the reason why Adani is indicted is bribing government officials in India and other places. Is that the reason why we defend him here? Is a question. And so this is not a place where you even defend the government, by the way. It's a total failure in terms of not reading the signs of times. The whole world is talking about Adani. They're telling us what has happened in other places, and we just bury our heads in the sand as though nothing's happening in the world. That is our undoing. And we refuse to see, clearly, refuse to see the issues around the world until they find us. They catch us completely unsuspecting, or when we're not ready. And so when the pressure comes in, then the president now abruptly pronounces that it's the cancellation, okay? But so abruptly that you would think it wasn't his will to do so. Because, I mean, that kind of change of heart is so abrupt. It's more like a Damascus moment, you know. And so I do say that we are not yet out of the woods. We are not yet actually out of the situation, because we're so committed, so deep inside, that we don't know how to extricate ourselves out of it.
And we shudder to imagine how long or how many tentacles, excuse me, that, pardon me. Yes, the tentacles that this company may have had in the Kenyan government. If at all we had not known about what was happening in the US, would we have known that probably Adani even had tentacles in this SHA or SHIF, if at all the president had not cancelled those deals?
Well, Fred, I cannot say for certain whether the president was aware or was not aware of some of these issues. But there was a lot of information in the public domain that there was a problem with Adani in Sydney, Australia. There was some problems with Adani in Bangladesh. There was some problem with Adani in one of the states of India. And this therefore means the president should have been aware of that, given the fact that that information was in the public domain. And I know better than anybody else, the president has a lot of information, even from NIS. And when you are doing a deal of the magnitude that Adani was getting involved, both in the energy and transport sectors, that information should have been available to him. This therefore means that perhaps the deal to the individuals responsible for it was too nice to resist the temptation. My worry is if people had already picked some money in advance, and I'm not suggesting that I'm aware of one, except there was a minister who had a problem somewhere in the Middle East, and they had to take the intervention of a high authority for him to be released, because there was that challenge of lots of money in the hands of a minister. Apart from that, of course, you know, Adani also has a case running into billions of shillings or millions of dollars with some of the cancellations that were done in some countries. So I hope the same is not going to visit our nation, and the same, if it was to visit our nation, then the people responsible for the deal should be able to tell us. Because as you know, the way we are made to understand, there was a study that had been carried out, feasibility study, to see the viability of Jomo Kenyatta or the Kenya Airports Authority having that upgrading to modern standards, the Jomo Kenyatta Airport. And as you know, KA has been making profit. And Adani was not bringing any new money. Actually, Adani was bringing very little money, I think about 98 billion, but he was going to take away the assets, put them somewhere, get the money, come and do the job. For 30 years, he would be deriving certain profits. Mm-hmm. So all that, my worry is, if we wanted private sector, public sector participation, and Jomo Kenya KA being a going concern, making profits, why didn't we invoke the capacity of Kenyans to be able to make a contribution and improve in terms of governance for that purpose, to allow the public sector to get involved in that, instead of bringing somebody who is coming to pick our assets, put them as a collateral, get the money, then it derives a lot of profit, and that profit gets out of the country. And he was going to bring some of the individuals from elsewhere to come and work at the airport. So these are some of the issues that we wish that the president comes out in a more open way to say, Kenyans, we made a mistake, and this is the cost of this mistake, and I apologize to the public.
Bwana Kisia, there's a difference between public-private partnerships and the risk of state capture. We've seen what happened in South Africa with the Guptas. Now that we're learning that Adani was not just about JKIA, that there's a deal in energy, a deal in health, don't you think we're very fast rushing towards that?
You know, Fred, and I'm happy to see my friend, Senator Mugatana. I've not seen him for some time. We were parents in the same school at some point.
Yes. Oh.
Coming here to at least tell us something from the Kenya Kwanza government, which we may soon baptize to Kenya Finito, or Kenya Kwisha government.
So you wish.
That's the wish of Kenyans. But because you are part of the bread-based government, we accept your position. Now, let me say this. You know, I wasn't surprised with what I saw, because I'm on record saying that this thing was stinking, completely stinking, riddled with corruption. But all these things that Kenyans were saying were falling on deaf ears. It actually called for God's intervention. It's only God who saved Kenya, because God came at a point and forced the Americans and this indictment to be made at the time it was made, because this thing was being pushed down our throats by force, by fire. And we're not saying, and you see, again, I was also shocked, because this is a government that operates with the night runner mentality. Because the Americans, the courts issued that judgment ruling on Wednesday. And if you understand how government functions, and we've all served government, all of us, the state of address is a serious address that would not have captured what the Americans came up with. You see, that announcement was made Wednesday. Thursday morning, Opio and I is banging tables and saying this thing must go through. Exactly 4 hours later, his own boss is saying, listen, that this thing is bad, because now I have new and credible information. As Kenyans, we are not saying that we don't want progress. In fact, our aspirations are captured in Vision 2030, and we are all familiar with Vision 2030. So we want to progress as a country, but we want to progress in an environment that is transparent. Now, many things have been said about this Adani by my colleagues here and other of our colleagues and Kenyans. But When the president made that state of address, and he appeared to be counseling, you could see pain in the man. And if I remember my teacher, English teacher in secondary school, they said, don't be so idiotic, too idiotic, more idiotic in idiosyncrasy itself. I was actually, even not me, my children, 12 and 14, who I think Mungatanas, we have many children. They were asking me, why are these people applauding the president? And when we know that this thing was smelling of corruption. So, Adani, from the word go, it would appear as if this was a mega business deal where people had already pocketed billions of shillings. Let me say this. The president was talking about new and credible information from partners. He was even shy of saying it's Americans who have brought this information to him. Now, if you know how government functions, any project of that magnitude, you must have NIS involved as part of your due diligence. And I can tell you without fear of contradiction that our NIS is one of the most respected intelligence systems in Africa, at least in Africa. So my question has been, was NIS involved? Because NIS is all over, in America, in India, we have NIS officers, and if they are not there, we can send them there as part of due diligence. The question is, were they involved? The other thing is, when they talk about, now receiving credible information from partners, we had information from Australia, in fact, from Parliament. There's a report. There are reports which came from Bangladesh. The Prime Minister was brought down because of some of these things. We had information from India, where Adani comes from. But people were still pushing Adani. Okay. Finally, Fred, this same Adani, if the president was actually genuine, His Excellency, my very good friend, if he was indeed genuine, he would have said, this Adani fellow, I'm cancelling Kentraco. Because, I have credible information from partners that this fellow is corrupt. I'm cancelling JKIA with a lot of pain because this is credible information. But because you are not being sincere, this chief shah thing was spared. Question being, the article His Excellency the President cited, Article 10 of Transparency and Accountability, does it exempt chief shah? Finally, solution. Like my brother said, Kirwa, we are only looking for 300 billion to modernize JKIA. Modernize 300 billion. Okay? Do you want to tell me that if you issued an infrastructure bond that Kenyans in diaspora here, our banks, our insurance companies cannot raise that money?
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, a part of the solution, what I'm saying is that for this one, even that cancellation is suspect. Okay. Another Adani will come through the back door. In a civilized society, Fred, the head should have been put on the chopping board. At the very least, all those involved, and in a very civilized country, even the head of state will say, you know what, I let you down. Here's my letter of resignation.
Senator, watching the kind of applause that followed the president's pronouncement on these Adani deals, it would appear that probably even the members of parliament themselves were not comfortable with it because there was a lot of applause. This only came a day after the revelations in the US. The general sentiment was that there was support for the president's move. How come members of the National Assembly and the Senate were so happy when he cancelled the deals? Is it an admission that they too saw some weaknesses and challenges in those?
Maybe let me just say that the colleagues seated here, honorable members, are very senior members of government. So I give them a lot of respect. Their views should be taken seriously. But I wanted to say this. They may have served before, but I currently sit in an energy committee of the Senate, okay? And we have a problem in this country. and this problem is a time bomb. We have capacity to generate energy, thermal, hydro, and everything. But transmission of power is a very big problem in Kenya right now. The system is unstable. The current system that is evacuating power from where it is being generated is a 1970s system. Populations have grown, towns have grown. The system is unstable, and so unstable that if the Suswa line has a problem, there's just one problem, the country goes into total darkness. In the Energy Committee, we have received a lot of presentations from KETRACO, from Kenya Power, and all the energy players about the need to develop the system, stabilize the system, so that transmission in Kenya is something we can rely on. And that if the system fails in one place, the other one picks up, so we don't have interruption of the flow of energy. There's also need to bring transmission to other areas of the country that have traditionally been marginalized, such as Tana River and the other areas in the northern coast, going up towards the northern eastern region, because industrialization cannot take place without power. So for me, I did not applaud that decision to cancel Adani. And I fully support the president, but sitting where I'm sitting, and you know, that morning also, we had Honorable Lopio Wandai in our committee. And it is in that committee when I asked him, there are issues. And he said, no, with or without those issues, we are proceeding. But my statement was, Mheshimiwa Waziri, you as a government have worked very hard to bring somebody who is answering the question that has been in this Energy Committee for forever, that we need someone who can stabilize the system. Now, but this person you have brought has issues, because that is the day I asked the minister the indictment in New York. Don't you think now you should ask for another due diligence report? Because he was telling us that we've done due diligence, we've done everything, and we should proceed. But we were trying to tell him, and I personally told him, don't you think you should do a second round of due diligence before you proceed? Because contracts can be vitiated by acts of God, by many other factors that can make a contract not work. So, but he said he was going to move forward. Now, my point was, we need an investor to stabilize that. And government, through the minister and other previous ministers, even before him, have told us there's no provision in the budget for us to make the kind of investment that will stabilize the transmission system. So what am I saying? I'm saying, and this is the reasoning I'm picking, I'm saying we have a need. That need has not been resolved by the cancellation of the transmission line investment. The need is still there. Today, if we have a problem in Suswa line, we have a problem in the country.
I guess the biggest concern is on the suitability of the...
So let me finish my issue, Fred. So what do we need? And if we are serious as Kenyans and outside the politics, because the politics can say, oh, the president did what, the ministers are not serious, what, that is for outside there. This is not what I came to discuss here. What we need to say is what, and that is the question I was asking the minister, in case you do a due diligence and there is a problem, what is the way forward? Because we need this. Fred, we need it like yesterday. So he told us, and which makes sense to me, that there is a provision, and it is the provision Adani used, that if people can organize themselves and come up with a proposal, because the proposals for public-private partnerships can be advertised by government, you can also come up with that idea. You know, a consortium of people can come together and say, we have this investment, we can put it in, and then this is how So it can be initiated by government, it can be initiated by the investor, potential investor himself. When it is the potential investor himself initiating, as in the case of Adani, the government has very little in terms of risk. That's why you can just walk away, at least if the agreements have not been executed and everything. So the challenge I'm putting before Kenyans today is that aside from the politics, which is not what I'm discussing here, because there will be time for politics, we have a serious energy evacuation challenge. What can we do? Can we as Kenyans, particularly the ones who are playing in the energy space, can they come together, put in that money and say, we are offering this alternative. Adani has gone, this is our alternative. Or we are going offshore and this is our alternative. We've done due diligence, we've done this, this is our alternative. And that is the discussion we should be having, for me, because we have a problem and we need to resolve it.
All right. So definitely the conversations around Adani and their involvement in dealing with this government will continue. According to the Deputy President, it is among the issues that brought a rift between him and his then boss, President William Ruto. Time for us to take a break. We'll be back to take a look at more details.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe with me, Fred Ndibuli. We continue looking at the discussions. We want to move on now from the issue of Adani, and this conversation, we agree, will definitely continue in the coming weeks now that the Deputy President has thrown a spanner in the works and says, the former Deputy President, that it was part of the issues that brought a rift between him and his then boss, President William Ruto. I want us to focus on what is on the front page of the Star. And this...
The Star? Yes,
the Star. I think my director can probably beam it on the screen. It talks about senators rejecting Ruto bill on Harambees. That's a big headline on the front page of the Star. Yes. But they juxtapose it with a story of the president saying, I won't stop donating to the church. Now this... The story is on page 4 and 5, and let's look at it. President William Ruto has suffered a blow in his bid to regulate Harambees after senators rejected a bill that technically bars them from participating in the fundraising drives. In a near unanimous rejection, the lawmakers said the Public Fundraising Appeals Bill 2024 will erode the brotherhood spirit that Harambees have instilled over the years. Harambees have created cohesion in this country, most of students today, and they go on and say all these things. This issue of Harambees has been quite thorny. Now that even the Catholic Church rejected a donation from the president, there's been hue and cry about politicians using the pulpit for politics and using money to endear themselves to congregations and churches. Now there's a bill the senators are rejecting, probably Senator Mungatana will tell us more about that. But Bwana Pogisio, this issue of Harambees and donations to churches, it's a very confusing one. We're only 3 years to the elections. The president on one hand says he will not stop donating to churches. On the other hand, a bill sponsored by the same administration has been rejected by Parliament. Which is which, and where do we go from here?
Fred, there is confusion, and there's what you call state capture in the Houses of Parliament. And it's very interesting. You don't know who is instructing Parliament to reject, at the same time asking Parliament to pass, you know. Because listen, there's confusion here. The president says he will never stop giving Harambee, giving money, and that means that Harambee should continue. There's a trend in this country to make sure that the people with money are the ones who get elected. The people who show that they have some wealth, some money, get elected because of their money, not because they're popular. And so if you remove Harambees, the same people are threatened. They are threatened because elections are coming and they want to be the ones to spend money. This country is one of the most expensive during the electioneering. The country where can they spend more money anywhere in East Africa is this country. And the people who are likely to win are those who can spend more money, especially if you want to be president of this country. The figures are mind-boggling. If you want to be a governor in this country, the Senate, and so on. So anybody who's trying to interfere with the Harambees definitely will be told, no, this is how we popularize ourselves. This is how we make ourselves known. Because if I have no advantage of money, then I'm just like the other person. And this is where we need to, that's why we fought for a long time. You cannot get rid of this Harambee business because people are interested. And you know, of course, our president likes to give money to churches, donates to churches. That's still Harambee, you know. That spirit could not have been in tandem with the bill being presented to the Senate or to the Houses of Parliament. So here is a situation where I think conflict of interest, and by the way, there's another bill called conflict of interest. So conflict of interest in this bill is very clear. Here is your conflict of interest. I want to continue doing Harambees. At the same time, I want you to stop Harambees.
Bwana Kirwa, there have been so many attempts to try and stop Harambees, especially by politicians. We see this movement from public fundraising and other platforms to churches now. And many people have said that these are some avenues of corruption and money laundering. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where we can actually stop Harambees? The legislators themselves know that that is part of the route they use to endear themselves to the voters as well.
Well, Harambee at times is so punitive because if you are to check at some of the WhatsApps that we are enjoined by individuals who need money for one reason or the other, it is mind-boggling. The resources that are required, even for those of us who are not in active politics, is beyond our means. So to say the least is, if there was a way of mitigating some of the challenges our society is facing, I would applaud those ways, because we used to do Harambees for the 20 years I served. I did a number of Harambees almost every other year, because we started with 8 secondary schools. By the time I left, there were 34, and all of them through Harambee effort. Today, there is money that goes to every constituency, but still Harambees are there. This therefore means the Harambee spirit has caught up with us as part of our social, cultural kind of event that you cannot do away with. But the danger is really, how much are you doing for the good of society, and how much are you doing to endear yourself to the individuals in that society? The second issue, Fred, is I would have, and I think I applaud the president, because if you have something, you give. But there are some of the events that can go in a way that if you are doing it really for philanthropic purposes, you don't have to tell us to the public gallery that I'm giving 5 million to complete this, I'm giving this to do this. Some of those things can be done quietly in a way that the people receiving it feel respected. And also you, if you are giving it in good faith, you don't have to tell us you're giving so much money for a certain purpose. Why are we saying that? We are saying that because some of the individuals we know, they were elected the other day, or they got into those positions the other day, and they were struggling with us just 1 year before, struggling to survive. And yet now they have the audacity of telling us that they are donating 5 million, they are donating 15 million. I'm not talking about the president. So it makes society wonder where is this newfound source of money that so and so that we knew him the other day is giving to us. And yet we know he has not expanded his means of getting that money. And now it brings the question of corruption and you flouting resources that we know they don't belong to you. But if somebody is donating out of his goodwill, we know this guy had 2,000 bags of maize the other day, and he has decided he's giving us 3 million shillings. We know he can afford because he had 2,000 bags of maize. But if you don't have even 100 bags of maize, you don't have any other source apart from the Adanis and so forth, then we question that particular source. So we need to improve the way we give this money.
Okay. As a society, it would appear we accept that Harambees are a way of life, that this is something we are used to, and Bonakiro admits he has done so many Harambees in the past. Yet the necessity of such a piece of legislation is to serve a different purpose, probably to curtail use of such avenues for criminal activity, money laundering, and probably corruption. Yet we see it's the same legislators who are called upon to legislate on the same issues, which they benefit from. Is it even possible to try and have clean Harambees going forward?
It is very possible to have clean Harambees if you have a clean society. It's very possible. But let me start by saying that the philosophy behind Harambee, pulling together, is an African thing, is a Kenyan thing, it's a good thing. Because it was meant to deal with some very specific societal challenges that as a country, when we took over from the reins from the British, we are facing. Let me give you an example. You don't expect any government to use public funds to build a mosque or a church, okay? Therefore, in my view, there's no harm in coming together and pulling together to assist a community to put up a mosque or a church, okay? But now, we have been independent for over 60 years. And I'm happy my brother Mugatana is, he does not smell Adani. I've not seen him giving 10 million and he doesn't smell Adani. I'm happy to that extent. You see, if we are operating in a system that works, because we're collecting taxes, right now we are at about 45%. We're actually almost competing with countries like Netherlands and Sweden, okay, where over half of your salary, of your earnings, go to paying taxes. But if you look at those countries, because there's nil corruption, the road infrastructure is there, world class. Education is world class. Their shift share is world class. Everything, even their air, is world class. Everything is world class because of the effectiveness in utilization of taxes. So I have no problem with legislation to legislate or to make sure that money collected goes to some specific use, but not to collect money from Harambees to go and do things that are supposed to be done through tax collection. Like my brother Kirwa said, are these Harambee sustainable? Are these really sustainable? Can they build our schools? And if you are donating from honest earning, like my brother Mugatana, I've not seen him splashing around 10 million. And maybe if he does, he has done it quietly, which should be the thing. Because you're assisting. You should not make it a public matter. This thing is not sustainable in the fashion that we are fashioning it. Mm-hmm. And therefore, there is need to look at it because we all know within this country that money, like my brother Kirwa said, some of these good friends of ours were as broke as a church mouse. But now, they are the same characters who are vomiting on us, who are even claiming that our stomachs are now big. Yet we know the president, in his own admission, the president has said that Kenyans are suffering, Kenyans are living through hardship, Kenyans are in pain. Then you have some advisors saying that our stomachs are big. Where are big stomachs here? And even if they are big because of our own sweat.
Okay. Bwana Mugatana, Senator, this bill sought to address specific issues, including barring political aspirants from Harambees 3 years before elections, state officers and appointed public officers prohibited from fundraising in office. It exempts tithes and offerings from the regulations and permits fundraising for private family causes. So it does not really remove Harambees from society completely. It sought to address specific issues that may border on corruption or misuse of public resources. Why the general? Because they say it was a unanimous decision.
It wasn't quite, but let me just say, government bills are normally brought by the majority leader, and they take precedent over any other law. And Honorable Pogisho here has been our leader in the Senate, so he knows what I'm talking about. I'm a UDA senator, in fact, the only one from the former Coast Province. Now, ordinarily, the majority leader will tell us, this one we support because we want to do this and that, yeah? Or this one we oppose and whatever. So there's an indication. So our current majority leader is a very dynamic young man that we really like, Senator Cheruiyot from Kericho. So I told him, this bill, what do you think of it? He told me, this bill is part of the discussions we had in response to what the demonstrations that the Gen Z had brought. There was an issue about huge donations which were being connected to the corruption. Mm-hmm. And so I told him, you speak as Kericho, I will speak as Tana River. In Tana River, I have a very serious problem. And my people, when they come to ask for support, I don't know about you guys in town and whatever, I can't speak for you guys, but in our place, it's real. The problem is real. And so if you have a bill that is telling me that I should not fundraise, it should be restricted to a family. And these were the arguments I put on the floor of the House. I said, look, that family is already poor. And you are telling them the Harambee should be done within your family. And there's something else you didn't mention. It also says, before you can do any Harambees or public fundraising appeal, you are supposed to see a cabinet secretary, yeah? The cabinet secretary in Nairobi to give you a letter from the OP, yeah? Or see the CEC in charge of social whatever in your county. So I said, Yani, this county, how big it is, if you tell somebody to move, to go all the way to the county headquarters and look for a CEC, and many of them are always traveling and misusing public funds, you will take a whole month. In fact, one senator, when he was arguing his case, he said, at that time, this is taking us to the time when we had to go to see the DC for a letter to do fundraising. So he had been admitted to a French school, Kamusinga. And he said he spent 3 months trying to get the DC to sign for him. By the time he was getting the signature, the first term had gone. So he joined French school, Kamusinga, second term, when the other guys had. So getting a DC at that time. So it makes some extremely outrageous requirements for any person who is trying to fundraise. The proponents of that bill, some of the senators who are supporting it, shocked me, because the guys who actually supported that bill are the honorable members who are very active on the social media. So my opinion is that people who live in Twitterville, Twitterati, that life of the air, are talking about things that are not on the ground. I've just come from home, and let me not lie to you. When you attend burials, when you attend weddings, when you are going to see kids who have needs because of whatever their families are telling you about, when you go to church, when you go to your Muslims' affairs and whatever, our people have needs, and you cannot stop me. In fact, I said, if you guys pass this bill, because I think I'm the first senior figure from the side of government who opposed that bill, and everyone was, Mugatana, what's happening? But I opened the floor so that people can also say their bit, and I'm glad people spoke their hearts, because elected senators who are in touch with their ground, they know the need. So I like this argument that was put on the floor. It wasn't my argument, but I borrow it. A very nice argument. It said, if the problem is corruption, if we want to regulate corruption, that people are stealing and therefore this money is being brought to Harambees, then there are agencies that we set up to deal with corruption. Where is EACC? If this bill again is coming to fight, to do the work EACC is supposed to be doing, let us disband EACC, let us set up this Harambees bill, and that's the only thing that should control corruption in Kenya. Let us forget about these other things. Okay. I argue, and I still say, you cannot over-legislate. You cannot legislate behavior. If someone has bad manners, someone has bad manners. And if they are behaving, no, let me finish.
The regulating churches.
Fred,
I'm just questioning.
I will answer you. I will answer you on that. But Fred, I'm telling you, you cannot regulate bad behavior. If I have bad manners, I will do that bad manners, and you cannot put a law that says I shouldn't sneeze, I shouldn't do this, because those are bad mannerisms. So if these people are corrupt, the issue is corruption, because everyone who was talking from Twitterville was saying it is corruption that they want to regulate. Then EACC should take up the challenge, find those people who are donating those kind of monies and bring them to account.
There's no need for, as you make your final comment,
is already
we only have like 5 minutes.
There.
Yeah.
The law is already there for EACC. You see, so they should actually...
You felt this was a case of an attempt at over-legislation?
Over-legislation, and it is not fair. If I want to donate, don't assume that what I'm donating, my 10,000, 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, I have stolen it, because this is
each a minute to say your final words on this Harambee issue. What is the way forward? Is there a need for legislation to try and regulate, at least to contain levels of corruption? Bwana Pogisio, final words.
Well, Fred, it has been tried so many times. It's always going to be the case where people have to look for monies, and sometimes it leads to corruption. And that's exactly what the problem is. But, and I agree with Senator Mungatana, in some instances where we're asking the question, do we even need a law on it, or do we just need to enforce what we already know about the causes, the root causes of corruption, including some of these Harambees? When people look for money for Harambees, it was, one time it was, for us, we had to go to the President Moi and, and things like that. Everybody would go there to get some Harambee money. It was almost like that. Now people have to do projects, steal, whatever it is, do corrupt deals, and so that you can actually continue. Take from CDF and things like that. And fortunately, we are Kenyans and we know each other, we know exactly what's good for us, but we don't have the courage.
And legislation will not help us.
I don't want.
Okay, Bonakiro.
Yeah, Fred, I also agree with my two president colleagues in terms of this contribution, that no piece of legislation can change society unless society decides to change itself. And as we know elsewhere, the late Murtala Muhammad, when he became the president of Nigeria, he was able to infuse discipline within the public service within 24 hours. And therefore it means if our president wanted to do anything like that, it is possible, because as we say in society, change comes from various means, including the leadership itself. The late Mwalimu Nyerere was able to infuse to the people of Tanganyika, before it became Tanzania, the need for you to accept to be a Tanganyikan, by ensuring that 6 weeks after winning the position of Prime Minister, he resigned and he spent the next 1 year trying to tell the people of Tanganyika how to behave. And when he came back to be president of Tanganyika, he was able to put in the school program issues that you meet the threshold in terms of good behavior. This therefore means that we need to think about it, and we need to encourage each other, and whoever will be our next president, or even the current president, needs also to walk the talk, instead of telling us what we ought to do and not doing exactly what he's telling us.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, colleagues. Fred, my closing remarks. Happy to see my brother Mugatana here. There is another elephant in the room. Our young boys are in Haiti. We had said before that they had been sent there as human sacrifice. Okay? The courts had pronounced themselves and said it is unconstitutional. Kenyans rejected that move. Now, the big brother, US, Trump, has said he doesn't want that nonsense. Russia, China have said they don't want that nonsense. Now we are being told a mission that is supposed to have been fully funded by the Americans to a tune of $100 million, that a poor nation that cannot pay for medicine, that cannot pay doctors, cannot pay teachers, cannot pay lecturers, has spent 2 billion shillings. And some guy has come to Mungatana in Senate and in Parliament asking for 17 billion for that mission. That is extremely shameful. That should not have happened. And I'm hoping that our Parliament will say, no, we cannot spend 20 billion shillings on a mission that is not going to benefit Kenyans just to make somebody happy. Okay. And yet our people are dying of hunger. The president himself is on his own admission. He has confirmed that people are in pain, people are hungry and hungry. Then you want to spend 20 billion on a mission that is so useless, that doesn't make sense. Finally, now that my good friend is here, if he can send a message to His Excellency the President, as painful as it was to cancel this Adani deal, I know it was painful, he has an opportunity to redeem himself. Let him do it correctly. We support transformation, but we want transformation in a transparent manner. Let him not attempt, or any person in government, bring up another Adani through the back door. Okay. We shall resist.
Thank you so much, Philip Kisia, Kipruto Rapkirwa, Samuel Pugisio, and Senator Danson Mungatana, for your time at TV47. Our panelists this morning on State of the Nation. Taking a look at the big headlines today. They are very varied, being a Monday. Senators rejecting Ruto bill on Harambees, while 10 judges face ouster over 3 billion shilling deal, but Adani deals making it to all the front pages this morning. After the break, Monday Blitz, the latest on sports coming from the weekend. What's the latest on the EPL? What happens next to Manchester City? Is Liverpool's lead now unassailable? That and a lot more with Shutterboy and Fred Arocho after the break. My name is Freddy Limuli. Good morning.